Okay, again, good afternoon, everyone. And what I hope to do today is just spend a few minutes with you. And I know you're probably almost inundated with a lot of information. These are a lot of smart folks that are in these webinars. It's amazing of the information that's available. But mine is hopefully going to be fairly simple. It's more about when to trade than it is what to trade specifically. And when I say that, what we're going to talk about tonight is the Globex. And my personal opinion is that we, and I think all of you will agree with me, is that we're in a global marketplace. We're in a 24-hour market, and the best place to take advantage of that is in the Globex. Now, when I use the term Globex, I'm talking about the market that opens at 5 in the afternoon and goes till the U.S. opens in the morning at 8:30. And it's been it's relatively a new market, and I had the good fortune of being one of those, as Renee said, pioneers, or I guess, a guinea pig is the way I see it. They experimented with us. The Globex is the grandfather of electronic trading, and it was a joint venture between Reuters and the CME. And this was originally designed to accommodate currency traders because, as you know, the currencies trade 24 hours, and you had currency traders sitting on the floor, around the clock, and at night it was relatively slow, and it just wasn't enough volume, and I'm sure it was a money loser, so they created this electronic platform. And I had the good fortune, as I said, of being one of those that got to participate. Now, when the Globex first started, and it was in the early 90s, you had to first be approved by the Futures Exchange, just to give you an idea of what we went through in those days. Then you had to put up, a few $1,000s to get a Globex terminal, and the only way you could enter orders was through that particular terminal. And it traded maybe 4 markets. It had the S&Ps, the big S&Ps. It had the bonds. It had the all the currencies, of course. I think gold was available, but I don't remember. And so it's amazing to see how this market has evolved over the years. So until 2004, only professionals could access this market. And again, there were only probably 24 of these Globex terminals around in the country, so we all knew who had one and kind of knew who the players were. Today, if you have a few $1,000s in a futures account, and you have access to the Globex, which most of you would through a futures account, you can now access literally any market in the world just about any time of day. Now, let me give you a quick story. We all have stories in this business. I was a portfolio manager at Prudential Securities at the time, and I was looking for a way to hedge portfolios. So also, if you remember the Japanese market, the Nikkei, in the late 80s, actually 90, you remember the Japanese market, if you've been trading a while, got up to almost 39, well, it did get to 39,000. On the Nikkei, the Japanese were buying literally just about everything around the world, and they had a true asset bubble. And I thought that market was overbought and was hoping to take advantage of it, so I tried to figure out a way to buy puts. Well, even though I worked for a firm that had offices in Tokyo, it was still difficult. I had to open an account in Japan, or Tokyo in this case. I had to convert it to yen. It was very difficult to get quotes to understand where the markets were. I'm talking now, 1990, 1989. So, I just finally threw my hands up and gave up. Of course, we all know that the Nikkei went from 39,000 down to ultimately 7,000, some 80%. Now, you think about corrections. I mean, it's just devastated the savings, of those people in that part of the world. And it didn't happen really quick. It's happened over years and years and years, and just now the Nikkei is back to some 16,000, 17,000 on that index. So today, the point I'm making of the story is if you have a few $1,000s in a futures account, You can access the Globex. You can trade the Nikkei in a matter of seconds. You can trade markets in Germany. You can trade markets just about anywhere in Europe, anywhere in the world. You can trade the markets in the U.S. that trade at night. You have access to literally every market you can possibly think of 24 hours around the clock. Now, to me, the most important aspect of trading in the Globex is that you have an opportunity to trade in a market that is much easier to trade than it is during the day. And I have been doing this longer than anyone you'll probably spend any time with. I think I can say that with some confidence because, again, I was one of the first to be experimented on in this market. Of course, we paid our tuition. You probably could have bought a small car with what we lost trying to figure this market out. And, you know, in those days, you know, we didn't have instructors or moderators telling us, you know, how this market worked. So we had to figure it out on our own. And, you know, looking back on it, it was probably fairly stupid to try to do it the way we did, but we did, and here we are today. So having said all that, how many of you have traded in the Globex or traded futures, you know, between the hours of 5 in the evening and 8:30 in the morning till the U.S. opens? All right, so it looks like the majority of you have traded in this market or are fairly familiar with it. Okay, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on, you know, because often when we're in these webinars, I don't know how many of you are familiar with futures or have traded in the Globex, so I'm going to skip over this what's an E-mini and what have you, and I'm just going to go right to the meat of it. But again, if you believe we're in a 24-hour marketplace, you believe in the global marketplace and the 24-hour market, the Globex is the best time, the best place to trade. And I say that with a great deal of confidence because I've been doing it, again, since inception. I trade around the clock. In fact, we have a trade room called Traders Den 24. As far as I know, we're the only chat room that's not only open 24 hours but staffed by moderators around the clock. So, you know, I'm up trading, you know, along with these moderators that we have in the room, you know, during the day, and it's a very difficult market to trade, you know, during regular trading hours. It's the most difficult market I've seen in my 37 years of doing this. I find it interesting that 75% of the hedge funds, you know, have lost money this year. But the Globex still makes a lot of sense. It's a lot easier to trade at night. One, because it's a slower market. Sometimes it's so slow it's like watching paint dry. You have to have a lot of patience at times, especially in the last few days we've had to have that. You don't have a high-frequency trading programs, which I think makes it much easier to trade. I'm not going to tell you there are not computers that are entering orders, you know, on behalf of various institutional accounts at night. But again, it's not the high-frequency trading programs that create such volatility that we've all become accustomed to. If you're not accustomed to it, you know, it's just mind-numbing, the volatility we see during the day. And I still believe that, you know, it's mostly high-frequency trading. The reason you don't have these high-frequency traders in the Globex at night is just not enough volume to accommodate these quant models that these traders and mathematicians have created. So it's just an easier market to trade. It's more of a trending market at night. Plus you have the opportunity to really study the market and see what's going on. Now, we have spent, you know, years developing indicators just like everyone else to trade this market. It's very simple, very easy to learn how to trade. I know a lot of you are probably sitting there thinking, you know, Bill, it sounds interesting, but I just don't have, you know, the energy or time to become an international economist, you know, and try to learn all these different Nikkei in Japan and the DAX in Germany and the FTSE in England. And, you know, I understand that, but it's been made very simple the way we trade these markets. I don't know of anyone that teaches the Globex. I don't know of anyone that trades a Globex the way we do. if there is someone out there doing it the way that we do it, I'm not aware of it. So I think not only do we have a unique market that we trade in, we have a unique system that we use to trade, and it's very simple. And a lot of you may think, well, okay, all that's great as well, but I just, have a job. Well, sure you do. Or I have a family to take care of, and I just don't have time or the energy to stay up to all hours of the morning because, my time frame starts at 5 o'clock in the evening. All the times, by the way, that I'm going to refer to are Central Time. We start at 5 o'clock in the evening, and I go till 2 or 3 in the morning, and then the other guys pick up around 8 o'clock in the morning, and they go through the day, and then again I start over at 5 o'clock. If you're a true Globex trader or you're a true 24-hour market participant, your day starts at 5 o'clock in the evening, not at 8:30 in the morning when the U.S. opens. By the time the U.S. is open, we've already made 2 or 3 or 4 trades and taken advantage of what's taking place at night in the Globex. Now, it's not complicated. It's very easy to learn how to trade this market. And again, I'll say this, if I've left you with anything today, the Globex is in my opinion, the easiest market, the more sensible market to learn how to trade if you want to trade futures. And if you're just learning how to trade futures, I believe the Globex is the place to learn, again, because it's a slower developing market and you don't have these high frequency trading programs that you have to work around. Now what we do is we break up the market into basically 3 sessions. We have the Asian session, which starts at 5 p.m. and goes till 12 a.m. And the markets that are basically in control at that time are the Hang Seng and the Nikkei. Then you have what they call the handover. I'm sure you've heard that, or the handoff. And they even use that on CNBC at night when the Asian markets hand over the control, if you will, to the European session. And the 2 markets that we are following at that time are the DAX and the FTSE. So there's a major difference of just how the Globex works versus trading during the day, because when you're trading during the day, you don't really care, minute to minute what the Nikkei or the Hang Seng or the DAX or the FTSE are doing, but at night you need to know because that's the dog that's going to wag the tail. Now, again, China, which is now the 2nd largest economy in the world, having taken over Japan a couple of years ago, and many think it will become the largest economy. Well, they're a major player in the global economic scene. And 5 years ago, you really didn't care what took place in China. You didn't care about their PMI or their GDP. But today, you better know that information. It's extremely important because it will affect how the markets, if they don't, how they trade during the day, it will affect how they open in the morning. We saw that just last week after China announced news. Last night, we had, China devalued their currency, and we saw a move in the market. So the point I'm making is that if you believe in the 24-hour market, if you believe that we're in a global marketplace, the Globex is the place that you need to spend some time, even if you're not going to trade, because if you're in a 24-hour market, the Globex is some 17 hours of that marketplace, and if you're leaving 17 hours of the 24-hour market on the table, you're leaving a lot of valuable information that could help make you a better trader. Now, I know a lot of you, again, are saying, Bill, I just can't stay up all night, but I will tell you that the majority of our trades take place before midnight. I'd say probably 70% of the trades that we call at night take place before midnight. And then, we probably have another 30-35% that take place after midnight, after the European markets can open. Now, the majority of the folks that are still up in the chat room with me at night trading live in Australia or Europe, of course, because that's their daytime hours. So, again, you don't have to stay up all night to take advantage of this market. You can, check in, check out when it's convenient. We send out text messages on our trades. We have alarms that we sound when we make a trade, when we change a trade, when we may change the stops. But again, if you believe in the global marketplace, then the 24-hour market is something you need to pay attention to, and the Globex is where you get a lot of that information. Now, again, I've spent, most of my career in this market, and, you've got a lot of folks that I was listening to today, been here 20, 25 years trading futures, and I've been, in the business for 37 years. I guess I'm an old man compared to some of those I listened to today. But like many others, there are proprietary signals that I've spent a lifetime, again, in this market developing, that help you navigate this market at night along with us calling trades. And of course, those proprietary signals are pivot times, and then you of course have to follow the international markets. You have what I consider to be one of the best indicators in this market at night, the DOM, or depth of market. For most of you on your platform, you have some, I think Thinkorswim or others call it a matrix. But it's that volume ladder that you see where you get a feed of the volume from the CME that tells you where the volumes are. That is a very important indicator for trading in the Globex at night. That indicator works great from 5 in the evening till 5 in the morning. If you try to use the DOM or depth of market or matrix, whatever they call it on your platform, during the day, you're going to find it doesn't work like it does at night. It is an indicator that, we rely on heavily. And as I, go through some of these, my definition of an indicator that works is when I find something that works 75 to 80% of the time, then guys and gals, you can make money with that. So I have never found an indicator that works 100% of the time, and if someone tells you they have one, I would, question it. But again, the DOM is probably our most primary indicator that we use at night. And then we look at the bonds and we look at the currencies. Now, a few years ago, we didn't have to pay a lot of attention to the currencies like we do today. Now, with all the financial engineering and tinkering in the marketplaces by the central banks, now you have to pay attention to what the currencies are doing, because they can definitely affect, how the S&Ps are going to move. The three that you really want to pay attention to, of course, are the yen, the euro, and the dollar. So having said all that, I know it sounds like a lot, but it's really very simple. If you watch the DOM at night and see where the volume is moving, you watch what the other international markets are doing. For example, during the Asian session, you watch the Hang Seng and the Nikkei. If you tell me what the Hang Seng and the Nikkei are going to do at night, I can tell you what the S&Ps are going to do. Now, the philosophy we have in trading the Globex at night, at least my philosophy, is, you learn one market and you learn it well. So we only trade the S&Ps at night. From time to time, I will call a bond trade, but only if I just feel really strongly about, what the bonds might do in a given situation. Now, also, I have some 25 what we call trading signals that I've developed. These are different from the indicators. These are, just like any other trading. These are patterns that I have watched and developed, on a regular basis, for example, and we have it coming up Monday, so we'll see how it plays out. The Monday after options expiration is usually up in the morning. It's not necessarily going to be up all day. Traders are still, squaring off position from the close on Friday. And you say, well, Bill, why is that important? Well, the Globex opens at Sunday at 5 o'clock, and if you're trading in the Globex and you're trading like on this weekend, Friday options expire, today of course. If you know that there's a high probability, again, probability in my world means 80% or better, that, the market's going to open up Monday morning, then that may help you if you're short or you're trying to figure out what to do in the Globex on a Sunday night. Okay, one of my favorite trade setups in the Globex, and you see this often, and we use this quite a bit, is, and you see this a lot in this market, where if the market closes at the top tick of the last hour of trading, you can short it into the close, and as soon as the Globex opens at 5 o'clock, you can scalp a point or two. So again, if the market closes, in other words, let's say, we're trading at 21.33 today and we close at 21.35, the top tick at the last hour of trading, you go in and sell them right into the close, and when the Globex opens, the next session, you can usually scalp 2 or 3 points pretty quick. Sometimes it'll keep trading on to the downside and you can have a pretty good night. So, we call that the overnight short squeeze. A lot of times, the market during the day session, they'll have bad news, and I'm sure you've scratched your head and tried to figure out why this happens. And on bad news, the market, reacts violently to the downside. Usually it's the employment number or something of that nature that we have on a Friday morning. Market sells off quickly because it was negative and caught the market by surprise. Then they spend the rest of the day squeezing everyone who got short. They close it near the top tick the last hour of trading. You go into the session, you sell them right at the close, carry them into the Globex, and again, you have a good chance of picking up a point or two. So there's a lot of opportunities to make money in the Globex that you may not see during the day. So what we try to do in the chat room is not only call trades, we're constantly trying to educate. I think we do a great job at education. We probably provide more education and information than most chat rooms you would be involved with. For example, one of the biggest issues that I find most traders have, if there's a separation between most traders and their discipline, it's money management. And I harp on this a lot in our trade room because I find that if a trader has a hole in his plan or a weakness, it's money management, even though they may have a great discipline for trading and putting in stops and what have you. And so we ask you to set a goal when you join our room. And let's say your goal, for example, I think this is an average in our room, is to make a couple of $1,000s a month to supplement your income. Well, guys and gals, that's easy math. If there are an average of 20 trading days, in each month, and your goal is to make $2,000, and all you have to do is average $100 a month. And guys and gals, that's not hard to do. Now, if you want to average $4,000, you can just do the math and see how we approach that. But when you join our chat room, first thing we ask you to do is set a goal as to what you would like to make. Of course, realistic expectations. And then we ask you to, once you determine your goal, everything else sets up for how you're going to manage the trading and your money. So once you've set up a goal, you now create a unit and you trade within a unit. And you never have more than contracts on than your unit allows you. So again, to give you an example, let's say that you become a 2-contract trader. You're trying to make $100 a night. Your unit is now 2 contracts. Now, yes, you can put one on at one level and maybe add another and leg into a trade and leg out of a trade, but you never have on more than 2 contracts at any one time. Once you establish your unit, no matter whether it's 4 contracts or 6, obviously it needs to be even numbers. Once you establish your unit, you never change or trade more contracts in your unit. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a 1-contract or 2-contract trader. He gets behind on a trade and then he says, okay, if they were a good sell at 21.35, now they're 21.37, they got to, still be even a better price, and they add on another contract, and then it's 21.40, and they add on again another contract. Next thing you know, they're 2-contract trader trading 5, 6, 7 contracts. The market continues to go against them. They finally yell uncle, they take their loss. And then they spend the rest of the month or months trying to get back their loss with 1 or 2 contracts, and that's very hard to do. So once you establish what your unit is, once you establish a number of contracts, the point I'm making is you never ever vary from that number of contracts that you're going to trade. And I can't tell you how many times I have seen experienced traders that violate this rule. So, our chat room is really simple. We teach you a very simple system. It's an easier market to trade, just like anything else. You've heard this 1,000 times. Don't overtrade. And also what we encourage the folks in our chat room to do is take a check out of their account weekly or monthly. I know that may sound like a simple thing to do, but you would not believe how far it goes psychologically, because it's just like anything else. You sit in front of your computer, you spend thousands of dollars trying to learn a process in which to trade. You know, you've got your emotions and your time invested. And if you take money out of your account on a regular basis, reward yourself for your effort. You're more apt to do those things that rewarded you with that money to begin with. It's just like golf or tennis or any discipline. You know, if you learn the discipline, you continue to do it on a regular basis, reward yourself, and that's just like Pavlov's dog, if you will. It reinforces those things that made you successful in the trading to begin with. So, you know, I know it's a simple thing to say this, but, you know, take money out of your account weekly or monthly. You'd be amazed psychologically what that does for your discipline and your trading. So it's real simple. I'm not going to make this too complicated this afternoon. My pitch to you is, if you want to learn how to trade futures, the Globex is the place to learn. If you want to trade futures in a market that, to me, makes a lot more sense, it's a lot simpler because you just don't have the volatility and the high frequency trading programs, the Globex is a place to learn to do that. Even if you don't buy the philosophy that I'm espousing today, the Globex is a market that one needs to follow and understand, because we are in a global marketplace. And if you do not follow this market, or at least have a basic understanding of it, you're leaving a lot of valuable information and opportunities on the table. I'm not sure why this is. In all my years that I've been doing this, it just seems to happen at night. You know, when most in the U.S. are sleeping, we get this news that can change the entire direction of the U.S. market, you know, that we thought we understood. You have the Lehman event in 2008 when Lehman went bankrupt. You have the crisis in Europe, you know, with the Portugal and Greece, and you have the Ukraine when Russia went into Ukraine. You know, the markets were spooked by that for 2 or 3 weeks for obvious reasons. When they have a currency crisis or they devalue a currency, or their central bank intervention. All this news, for the most part, it seems to happen when most in the U.S. are sleeping, and there are just a tremendous number of opportunities that you can take advantage of before the U.S. ever opens. So if you're not following the Globex, you're not trading in the Globex, I will tell you, you're leaving a lot of valuable time, trading information, and information that can make you a better trader and a better investor if you're not following these markets. So I am having a 2-hour course, maybe 2.5, it just depends on how it goes. October 26th. We'll go from 7 to 9 Central Time. It's $97. For the $97, you get access to our trading room. As I mentioned to you, when we first started, we have a 24-hour trading room. We have moderators that staff the room around the clock. I don't know of any other chat room that does it the way that we do. Then you have, of course, the access to the Globex at night. You get Options 101 course by Dr. Frank Stanley. You've probably heard of him. He has one of the best options courses around. You get access to the, and you get to keep that information. Then you get access to our archives and library. You get to keep all this information, but, you know, again, the 2-hour course will give you everything you need to know to understand and navigate the Globex. I don't hold anything back. I don't try to, you know, say, well, if you want to learn indicator number 2 or 3, put up more money. We put it all on the table in that course. We put it all on the table in the chat room. We don't hold anything back. So in that 30-day period of time, you will get all the information we have to offer and all the access for the 30 days to our 24-hour room and to the Globex. And I will tell you this, that if you don't learn, at least one pattern or one signal or one thought that doesn't make you a better trader during that 30 days. And, $97, guys and gals, in this business to learn at least one indicator or something that makes you a better trader. Call me, say, Bill, I was in your room for 30 days. I didn't learn a thing. I'll give you your money back, because I know within that 30-day period, you're not going to learn just that one pattern or one signal or one process that will make you a better trader. You're going to learn a lot more than that, because I've been doing it long enough to know that that's what's going to happen. So 30 days, you get access again to the chat room for the 30 days, all the trading that probably you can stand. You get access to our archives and library, where we have videos and tapes that you can listen to at your leisure. You get Dr. Stanley's Options 101 course, and you get the trade alerts that we send out via text messages. All that's available to you for 30 days because it's real simple. $97 for 30 days to see if the Globex works the way I say it does, to see if you don't agree with me that it is a much easier market to learn and to trade. And, $97 for 30 days is nothing, as I said, in this business, in my opinion. All right, so I'm going to cut it off there. I'll take any questions that you have if I can figure out how to open the question box real quick. If you'll give me just a minute. Renee, if you're there, can you help me open this question box? Because right now I can't see the questions.
Do you see where it says questions on the dashboard?
I do.
And then up in the right-hand corner by questions, there's a little arrow to pop out the questions box.
Okay, let's see what.
Next to the X.
I still don't have it. I'm sorry.
I can read the questions to you if you'd like.
That would be great. Thank you.
All right, one person asked, what is the trading room time in Globex? And the other said, do I need all the exchange data for each market, or can I see your charts?
We provide all the exchange data, and that's a good question. I'm glad that you asked that question. You have to have real-time quotes on the Nikkei and the Hang Seng, and the only way to get those is off the Singapore exchange. There are websites that provide you with that information, but those websites are usually anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes delayed. And in our room where we project the quotes that you need to trade the Hang Seng, the Nikkei, the DAX, and the FTSE, so you don't have to go out and spend $40, $50, $60 on exchange quotes in the room. Now, again, the room opens for the Globex session at 5 o'clock. It's open 24 hours, but we start at 5 o'clock on the Globex session, and then we go till the U.S. opens in the morning. But we're usually finished with our trading by 2 or 2:30, 3 o'clock. Are there any others?
And then there's one of, does this have an auto renewal of $97 per month, and do we need any platform in order to trade futures?
You can trade what we do in the Globex on any platform. We don't have any relationship with platforms. I personally trade on Gain, Capital. Some of the other guys in the room trade with Ninja, but all of our members trade on different platforms. It doesn't matter what platform you trade on, as long as you have, the Dome or Matrix, whatever it's called. Again, that's the volume indicator where you see the bid and ask, from the CME feed. If you have a Dome, you have a platform where you're happy with the commissions and you're getting good fills. That's all you need to trade in our room. We don't align ourselves with a group to take advantage of commissions. We think that's a conflict of interest. So any platform that you're trading on right now, you can trade on in our room. So you don't need to go and open an account so you can trade in the Globex. If you have a futures account, you can trade in our room, and you have all the access that you need through that platform. And what was the other part of that question? I'm sorry, I forgot.
Is there an auto renewal of 97 per month?
Again, a good question. After 30 days, if you choose to stay in the room, it's $147. Again, that's for a 24-hour chat room and open education. We don't come back and try to sell you anymore. That's it. The $147 is all that you'll ever spend. Now, we do have, you know, a couple of guys that teach some courses like volume profile. We have West Coast Roy, we call him, because he lives in California, that teaches Murray lines and volume profile. He does a great job. He's one of our traders during the day. We have John Anders, who's great on credit spreads and options. He calls trades on a daily basis. The only days that we do not call trades are on Fridays, but it's $147 for access to the 24-hour room and all the education that we have to offer.
And then one more of, do you trade Nadex or futures?
We trade futures only. I'm sorry, go ahead. 80% of the trading that we do in the room is usually with the E-mini. They will call trades, you know, using the Dow futures or NASDAQ futures, but it's primarily the S&Ps.
And then one person asked, will this add to what MTI teaches for market trading in a positive manner and increase percent return?
Read that one to me again.
He says, will this add to what MTI teaches for market trading in a positive manner and increase percent return?
I don't know what particularly MTI teaches. I can only speak to the returns in our room. I believe in providing, you know, real-time statements. And, you know, if you email our support group at Traders Den, we will provide you with actual statements of our returns. And that's all I can speak to is how we do in our room and what our returns are.
And then one last one, what are the Globex room timings and will there be a moderator?
Yes, I'm the moderator in the Globex. We start at 5 o'clock in the evening Central Time and we go till 2 or 3 in the morning. This morning we went till 4 because we shorted the Globex, the S&P and the Globex at 34.5. And it took a little longer for that trade to set up, but it finally sold off and we finally were able to take our profit right after the U.S. opening in the morning.
All right, and looks like we have time for one last quick one. He just wants to know, are you taking live trades?
These are all live trades. All the trades we call are live trades, and you have access to the information in the chat room as we call the trades, plus we send out a text message when we put the trades on.
All right, well, it looks like that is all the time we have for questions. So if you guys do have any more questions for Bill, make sure you check out the link in the description and go to tradersden24.com. And we really appreciate you coming and taking the time out of your day, Bill.
Well, thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And thank you for spending a few minutes with us. I hope that I said at least one thing that will help make you a better trader. If I did that, then that was time well spent for myself and for you, I hope.